Villains, a fundamental piece to any well-formed piece of literature. Without a question, iconic heroes make up an immense majority of the media. However, a lot of the time, the hero's iconic status comes from his or her interaction with the villain. This can be uniquely described in many ways of your favorite shows across the board. Now, before I uncover all the lost secrets of such an interesting topic, we have to first understand the true meaning behind both terms. Firstly, the term villain is categorized as an evil or malicious character who commits evil deeds and or causes harm to others, and that's what's referred to as a villain. A villain may have an explanation for their behavior that is in line with their own moral standards, yet their deeds nonetheless cause harm and devastation. However, an antagonist is not the same as a villain. This is commonly confused in today's world, as many people believe they are one and the same. Although there is some overlap, they are not equals. The antagonist is merely the primary force working to prevent the protagonist from achieving their objective, while a villain, more or less, is there to not only work against the protagonist, but often to achieve their own ambitions as well. Secondly, the term Gigachad is sort of a new fad here on the internet. Gigachad is a term that indicates that the person who is initially assumed to be real is the ultimate Chad Thundercock, an internet archetype representing an ultra-masculine, sexually attractive male. The term was coined by 4chan users who were impressed by the photos of the model, whom they called Gigachad, or the perfect human specimen destined to lead us against the reptilians. According to the great hive mind over at Urban Dictionary, a Gigachad is described in a such blissful manner as the ultimate man, the Chad to out-Chad all Chads, the alpha male of alpha males. If a woman were to look in his direction, she would immediately orgasm. His jawline is a perfect 116 degrees, the absolute Chad to end all absolute Chads. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Or are you in a happy relationship with your girlfriend or wife? This man will kidnap her and give her the most severe case of Stockholm Syndrome that has ever been seen to man. Now that we have successfully discerned what each of these two words mean apart, we can now go full throttle down the rabbit hole to finding the most Gigachad villains in anime history. Now, first on the list, this entire list could not be complete without Dio. When you search up the term menace to society, this guy's picture is immortalized right next to hell itself. As you fellow JoJo fans know, this guy is pure chaos. If you're not familiar with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Dio Brando is the main villain throughout most of the series, parts 1 and 3 being his most prominent showings. While in the other parts he may not be present in a physical form, characters of the show are always well aware that the mention of his name alone means nothing but trouble. To start right off the bat, when he makes an appearance, this dude is nothing but an actual goon. He not only poisons Jonathan's dad, who is the same guy that adopted Dio in the first place, later in the series, this monstrosity throws Jonathan's dog in the furnace and burns it alive. Do you know how much of a twat you have to be to kill a dog? And this guy doesn't even hesitate. Your Doberman? Toasted. Your golden doodle? Burnt to a crisp. Your little chihuahua? Incinerated. This guy is a god among men when it literally comes to not giving a f***. To put the nail in the coffin, no pun intended, especially for you JoJo fans, wink wink, Dio kisses Jonathan's longtime love right in front of his face. This guy cannot be stopped. He's like a runoff train that has no brakes. And the best part about this, you may ask, this is all within like the first 4 episodes of the show. He is by far and by no means the most Gigachad character from the series, and it's not even a closable gap. Now, I know you may be thinking, well, okay, yeah, he's a major doucher and just a complete piece of shit, but is he even strong? Oh boy, I'm glad you asked. On top of all the monumental f***ery this guy imposes, the writer decides to, give him one of the most overpowered anime superpowers of all time. The ability to stop f***ing time. I wish from the bottom of my heart I could say that I'm joking, and boy, believe me, when he uses this ability to commit the maximum amount of bullshit ever, every time he screams, "the world," you know you're in for a treat. Now, while I can name an infinite amount of examples of why Dio's an absolute Gigachad, I figured I'd leave the rest to you to see for yourself. If you haven't watched it, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is definitely worth it. Now, with no surprise, the next villain on this list goes without saying because I talk about him in every video I make. That character is none other than Madara. Now, most of you know that I could fangirl out of my pants for this guy. I won't bore you with every single detail with this and explaining every reason of why this guy is an absolute Chad. But I figured for the few people that never saw this guy in action, I'd give a recap of some of Madara's craziest curb-stomping moments. First, I want to mention that within the show, he is first mentioned in chapter 217 of the manga. Now, I say this because he doesn't actually show up physically within the story until chapter 560. That's 343 chapters of build-up before this colossus of a titan makes his first real appearance. And boy, when he shows up, it doesn't disappoint. Off rip, this guy big dicks the entire Shinobi Alliance by throwing hands with an entire section of their force. With 80,000 total in the army that are divided into 5 groups, that means Madara took on a ridiculous 16,000 Shinobi at the same time. And this is the first goddamn time we are seeing this guy. On top of it, he not only single-handedly beats the ever-living shit out of the 5 Kage, which you mind are considered the strongest ninja of each village, and he barely even lifts a finger. I could go on for days about examples of how Chad this guy is, but I'll save you the trouble, so here's a short list. Using Tengai Shinsei not once, but twice in a row. His reveal of the perfect Susanoo. Fighting all the tailed beasts at the same time. And wrapping the 9 tails in a Susanoo cloak. For the next spot on this list, I have to give it an equal tide to 2 characters of the same universe, Cell and Frieza. Combined are just a tandem of actual f***ery when it comes to talking about true pieces of shit. Firstly, I'll cover Cell. He's definitely the milder of the two, but this guy is still a goon. Cell makes his first appearance within the show and immediately deems Earth to a life or death martial arts tournament to save their existence. And that's only the start. Cell wipes the floor with pretty much every being Earth has to offer, and it is barely even a competition. Obviously, this is until Gohan steps into the ring and finally takes him down. See, the thing about Cell is he was definitely a cocky, son of a bitch. And by no means will I ever take that away from him. But what really solidified him was his banter and style fighting. He was the epitome of shit talk. He was insanely strong and a breath of fresh air within the series as someone who even Vegeta and Goku couldn't take down. However, his cockiness ended up being his eventual downfall, but that's what made him so daunting in the first place. Even if you didn't like Cell, most people who watched the show respected him for the sole fact that he did everything in honor. He didn't take cheap shots or give himself a clear advantage to succeed. And here we go. On the other side of the spectrum, Frieza is by far the most lunatic character I have ever seen brought to life in any realm of anime. And this guy was a real piece of work. Everything he did on screen was just an over-the-top act of shit.
Get some help.
Frieza is seriously like the anime version of Hitler, and that might be an understatement in the grand scheme of things. This dude seriously gave no fucks. He has the rationale that he is so superior to the Saiyan race that he literally blows up their fucking planet to assert dominance. This guy is straight up mental. The part that boggles my mind is that if you thought that just the mass genocide of the Saiyan race wasn't enough, you're in for a treat because Frieza comes back with another extermination attempt on the Namekians. This guy is so sadistic that he didn't get his racism fixed through the first go-around, and he needed a round 2. Frieza is like the epitome of Michael Jordan going back-to-back, having a 3-peat, but instead of basketball, we're talking about mass genocide. So here's the current problem I'm in. I can name an endless list of characters that could be on here. I don't think they would fit as well as the ones I've named previously, but there are definitely some that could 100% make it. But I figured to give the best of both worlds, I would do a lightning round naming some characters who just exhibit Gigachadness to settle a score. So, in 3, 2, 1. Light Yagami, whether you're considering him a hero or a villain, this dude is a straight up goon. In the beginning of the show, you could argue his perspective on bettering society, but throughout the show, you see him slowly morally decline into a delusional, sadistic sociopath. Miriam from Hunter x Hunter is another pick I have on this list that might come as a bit of a surprise considering he didn't really do as much as some of the others I named. However, even though he lacked as much screen time as the others, when he was present, my god, this dude was devious. For Christ's sake, he took on Netero, who was a god amongst mortals compared to other hunters. Lastly, I want to mention Eren Yeager because I feel as if you could go either side with or against him on considering him a villain. Regardless of your stance, this guy has a thirst for revenge, and by god, if you stand in his way to get it. This guy summoned the rumbling with no consideration for anything at all, which if you don't know what that is, it's like, what the actual f***? You know you're a villain if your entire squad from childhood disagrees with your actions. With that, if you made it this far and enjoyed the video, make sure to slash that like button and subscribe if your heart so desires. If you have any video ideas you would like to see in the future or anime villains that you could see on this list, then make sure to let me know in the comments. Peace out, motherfuckers.